Hey, the Glorious Pirate here, episode 2 of my little mini-series of the Great Tournament. Let's just start it right off, and instead of just asking both of them this time, I'm going to have them take turns doing the questions. So we'll have my mom go first. Another horn sounded. The men from the right side, the horses charged. You noticed the left side, the griffins charged as well, but they were much more organized. They made sure they stayed close together. They formed a semicircle around the enemy. When the right side charged, one of the eager aggressors ran further up ahead with his comrades. He soon engaged in combat with the left defenders and found himself surrounded. He was quickly put down. The fighting continued only until the one side remained standing, what happened to be the left side, the griffins. Two of the men had fallen, but all in all were mostly intact. A few watchers booed. They certainly was one of the quicker arena battles you had seen. Unusually, it was chaotic, with men having individual duels all throughout the arena. People often wanted to make a name for themselves. As this was the most common way to get into the single matches, it seems the left team decided to use a different strategy instead. You found the Griffins team to be smart for using an alternative strategy, boring for the battle ended too quickly, or smart but also foolish, as they would probably not be re-invited to compete again. Mom? Smart, boring, or foolish? Foolish. Alright. In truth, winning wasn't really the point of the team battle. Both sides were compensated well. What really mattered was if the crowd was entertained. It was supposed to be a disorganized brawl to get the crowd excited for the main event. By making a quick fight, it resulted in some of the people being disappointed. Perhaps the Griffins did not know this or didn't care. There was a brief intermission before the main event. Vendors walked around selling food and drinks. A couple fights broke out on the top stands, which resulted in a small detachment of guards having to be sent to break it up. Next up was your favorite knight, Sir Robert Gale. He was your favorite for a good reason. Not only was he considered one of the best swordsmen in the realm, he had the love of the people as well. He often would donate his winnings to the poor or use it in outrageous ways. You fondly remember one of the tournaments where Sir Robert Gale tossed a bag of gold up on the stage, causing a near riot to break out. He hadn't done that since he also employed your father, which may be an even bigger factor in why he is your favorite knight. Your father worked as the stable hand for Sir Roberts, taking care of his prized horse, Midnight. Your father grew up as a farmhand. He had always taken to horses well. It was said that Midnight was the fastest horse in the realm, but also one of the wildest. Other horse trainers and stable hands refused to work with Midnight, saying he could never be broken in. But that didn't stop your father. He was able to get the horse under control and take care of her like no one else could. Sir Robert Gale immediately took notice and hired him. Sir Robert was going to fight Thrall, a noble warrior from the Far East. Many people were shocked at Thrall's size. He was huge. His hand was bigger than some people's faces. He also stood around 7 feet tall. Your initial reaction when you saw him was to feel sorry for his horse. He seemed uncomfortable on his mount. For him, the joust was more of a formality. The two knights lined up across the arena as the flags and rope were set up to distinguish the sides. You saw your father feed a carrot to Midnight, which seemed to make her forget about the crowd and calm her down. Sir Robert Gale was wearing light armor, while Thrall was in heavy plate mail. When the jousting arena was fully prepared, Aldrich, who had been the tournament announcer for as long as you could remember, took stage and raised his arms for the crowd to be silent. He introduced Sir Robert Gale, who hailed from the Northlands, and the crowd cheered. He introduced Thrall, and the crowd also cheered, but with a little less enthusiasm than before. He reminded the competitors of the rules of the competitions, which were very few. The joust would result in 3 passes, even if it lasted long. You received 1 point for making contact with your opponent. You received 2 points if you hit your opponent and broke your lance. Finally, if you knocked your opponent off his horse, you would receive 3 points. Most knights who were knocked off their horses did not continue the joust and were also allowed to withdraw with honor. There was also a rule that if any knight did not agree with the ruling of the tournament, they could settle the competition with hand-to-hand combat. Aldrich examined each of the knights' 3 lances to make sure they were fully wooden, and waved his hand to signal that the tournament could begin. Each knight stood on the either side of the arena looking at the other ready to charge any money. Oh guys, I'm going to have to end it there. Later!